What happens when royalty meets reality television and a simple interview turns into the most explosive moment in daytime talk show history? In just 38 seconds, a carefully constructed image crumbles on live television, leaving millions of viewers absolutely stunned. The studio lights were bright that morning. The audience sat buzzing with anticipation. Everyone knew this was going to be big. Joy Behar sat at the table, ready for what she thought would be another standard interview. Meghan Markle walked onto the stage with confidence, waving at the crowd. The applause was loud. She took her seat, smiling that famous smile everyone had seen 1,000 times before. Joy started with a warm welcome. "Thank you so much for being here today. We're thrilled to have you." Meghan nodded. "Thank you for having me." The first few questions seemed harmless enough. Joy asked about recent projects, about adjusting to life, about future plans. Meghan answered each question with practiced precision. Her responses felt rehearsed, calculated, but Joy was experienced. She had been doing this for years. She knew when someone was holding back, when someone was putting on a performance. "Let's talk about some of the criticism you faced," Joy said, her tone still friendly, but more direct. "There have been questions about consistency, about some of the statements you've made over the years. How do you respond to people who point out contradictions?" The smile on Meghan's face tightened just slightly. "I think people need to understand the context. The media twists everything. They take things out of context constantly." Joy leaned forward slightly. "But these aren't just media interpretations. These are your own words, recorded interviews, documented statements that seem to shift depending on the audience." "That's not fair," Meghan said, her voice rising just a bit. "You're doing exactly what everyone else does. You're trying to trap me." The audience went quiet. Joy remained calm. "I'm not trying to trap anyone. I'm asking questions that a lot of people want answers to. That's literally my job." Meghan shifted in her seat. "Your job is also to be respectful, to treat your guests with dignity." "And I am being respectful," Joy replied evenly. "But respect doesn't mean avoiding difficult questions. You came on this show knowing what kind of program this is. We have honest conversations here." Meghan's expression changed. The polished exterior began to crack. "Honest? You want honest? Fine. This whole setup is a joke. You bring people on here just to tear them down. You act like you're this champion of truth. But really, you just like making people look bad." Joy sat back slightly, clearly taken aback, but maintaining her composure. "That's quite an accusation. I've been doing this show for decades. We have difficult conversations with everyone who sits in that chair. Presidents, celebrities, activists, everyone gets the same treatment." "Oh, please," Meghan scoffed. "You treat people differently based on whether you like them or not. Everyone knows it." The tension in the studio was palpable now. Audience members looked at each other uncomfortably. The other hosts at the table sat frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Joy's voice remained steady. "I treat people based on how they present themselves and how they answer questions. If someone is evasive or contradictory, I follow up. That's not personal. That's journalism." Meghan laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "Journalism? Is that what you call this? Sitting around a table gossiping and attacking people?" "We don't attack people," Joy said firmly. "We hold them accountable. There's a difference." "Accountable?" Meghan's voice was getting louder now. "Accountable to who?" "To you. What makes you the arbiter of truth? What makes you qualified to judge anyone?" Joy took a breath. "I'm not judging you. I'm asking you questions based on public statements you've made. If you can't handle being asked about things you've said publicly, then maybe doing interviews isn't the best idea." That was the breaking point. Meghan stood up abruptly, her microphone nearly falling off. "How dare you? How dare you sit there and lecture me about what I should or shouldn't do? You have no idea what I've been through. None. You live in your comfortable little bubble, judging everyone else. Joy remained seated, her voice calm but firm. I'm not in a bubble, and I'm certainly not judging your experiences. I'm asking about your public statements. Those are two different things. Everything is connected, Meghan shot back. You can't separate my experiences from my statements. That's the whole point. But you don't get it. You don't want to get it because it's easier to just paint me as difficult or entitled. Nobody is painting you as anything, Joy said. You're painting yourself right now with how you're reacting to basic questions. Meghan pointed at Joy, her hand shaking slightly. Basic questions? You've been hostile from the moment I sat down. Every question has been loaded. Every comment has been a subtle dig. Don't act innocent now. Joy shook her head. I've been direct, yes. But hostile? No. If directness feels like hostility to you, that says more about your comfort level with scrutiny than it does about my approach. There it is, Meghan said triumphantly. There's the condescension. You think you're so smart, so above it all. You're not. You're just another talk show host desperate for ratings, willing to attack anyone to get attention. The audience gasped. Someone in the back tried to start applause, but it died quickly. Joy's expression hardened slightly, but her voice stayed controlled. I don't need to attack anyone for ratings. This show has been successful for years because we have real conversations. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's okay. You're welcome to leave if you'd like. Oh, you'd love that, wouldn't you? Meghan said. Then you could tell everyone how I couldn't handle the heat, how I ran away. That's the narrative you want. I don't want any narrative, Joy replied. I wanted a conversation. You're the one who turned this into something else. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. You know what? Fine, I will leave. Because I don't have to sit here and be disrespected by someone who clearly has an agenda. The only agenda here was to have an honest discussion, Joy said. But you're right. You don't have to stay. That's always been your choice. Meghan started walking toward the edge of the stage. Then she turned back. You're going to regret this. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Joy's eyebrows raised. Is that a threat? It's a fact, Meghan said coldly. You think you can treat people however you want with no consequences. You're wrong. One of the show's producers appeared from the side of the stage. Joy looked at them and nodded. The producer approached Meghan. I think it's best if you leave now, the producer said quietly but firmly. Meghan's eyes widened. Are you seriously kicking me off? I'm the guest. I was invited here. You were invited to have a respectful conversation, the producer said. That's not what's happening anymore. Joy spoke up from the table. You're absolutely free to go. Nobody is keeping you here. But the threats and the insults, those aren't acceptable. Not toward me, not toward this show, not toward anyone. Meghan looked around the studio as if expecting someone to come to her defense. The audience sat in stunned silence. The other hosts remained quiet. No one moved to support her. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, her voice shaking now with anger. You're all just going to sit there and let this happen? Let what happen? Joy asked. You're the one who escalated this. You're the one who started making accusations and threats. We tried to have a conversation. You chose a different path. Meghan's face flushed red. A conversation? You ambushed me. You brought me here under false pretenses just to humiliate me on national television. Nobody ambushed you, Joy said, her patience clearly wearing thin, but her tone still measured. You were given the questions in advance. Your team approved everything. You knew exactly what we were going to discuss. That's not true, Meghan insisted. It is true, the producer interjected. We have the emails. Your representatives confirmed receipt of all topics. Meghan spun toward the producer. I don't care about your emails. This was a setup from the beginning. Everyone can see that. Joy stood up now, her full attention on Meghan. The only thing everyone can see is someone who can't handle being asked direct questions. Someone who throws accusations when they don't like the conversation. Someone who makes threats when things don't go their way. I didn't threaten anyone, Meghan protested. You literally just said I'd regret this, and that I don't know who I'm dealing with, Joy said. In what world is that not a threat? Meghan opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. She looked cornered. You're twisting my words again. That's what you people do. You twist and manipulate until everything sounds terrible. Your words were pretty clear, Joy said, and they're all on camera. There's no twisting happening here. The producer touched Meghan's arm gently. Please, let's go. This isn't getting better. Meghan jerked her arm away. Don't touch me. Don't you dare touch me. Nobody is touching you, the producer said, stepping back with hands raised. I'm asking you to leave voluntarily before this gets worse. Worse? Meghan laughed bitterly. How could it possibly get worse? You've already destroyed me. You're destroying yourself, Joy said quietly. Right now, in this moment, with these choices, nobody else is doing this to you. Those words seemed to hit something. Meghan's face contorted with rage. You have no right to speak to me that way. None. Do you understand who I am? What I've accomplished? Joy sat back down. I know exactly who you are. That's why you're here. That's why we wanted to talk to you. But your accomplishments don't make you immune to questions. They don't give you the right to lash out when someone challenges you. Challenges me? Meghan's voice was nearly a shout now. You haven't challenged me. You've attacked me from the second I walked out here. This whole thing was designed to make me look bad. If you look bad right now, Joy said carefully, it's because of how you're behaving, not because of anything I've done. Meghan stared at Joy for a long moment. The silence was deafening. Then she said, very slowly, You are going to be very sorry you did this. Joy didn't flinch. There's that threat again. You might want to think carefully about continuing down that road. It's not a threat, Meghan said through gritted teeth. It's a promise. The producer stepped forward again. Okay, we're done here. Meghan, you need to leave now. This is not optional anymore. You can't kick me off, Meghan said, but her voice had lost some of its conviction. We absolutely can, the producer said, and we are. Please go. Meghan looked around one more time, at Joy, who sat calmly at the table, at the other hosts, who still hadn't spoken, at the audience, who watched with wide eyes, at the cameras, which had captured every single second of this disaster. Fine, she finally said. I'll go, but this isn't over, not even close. She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking loudly in the quiet studio. Just before she reached the door, she turned back one last time. You're all going to see. You're all going to understand what you've done. And then she was gone. The door closed behind her with a heavy thud. Joy sat at the table, taking a deep breath. The audience was completely silent. Nobody seemed to know what to do or say. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a few seconds, Joy looked directly at the camera. Well, she said, her voice steady, despite everything that had just happened. That was certainly unexpected. One of the other hosts finally spoke up. Are you okay? Joy nodded. I'm fine. Really. This is part of the job sometimes. Not every interview goes smoothly. Not everyone can handle direct questions. That's okay. We move forward. The audience began to applaud. Slowly at first, then building. They were applauding Joy, supporting her, showing they understood what had just happened, that she had tried to do her job, tried to have a real conversation, and had been met with hostility and threats. Joy smiled slightly. Thank you. But honestly, I just wish it had gone differently. I always hope for good conversations, for real dialogue. That's what we're here for. Another host chimed in. You handled that incredibly well. You stayed calm the entire time. Someone has to, Joy said with a slight shrug. When things get heated, staying calm is the most important thing. Escalating never helps. The audience applauded again. They could see it. They could see who had been reasonable, who had been professional, who had tried to keep things on track, and they could see who had chosen chaos instead. The show went to commercial break. During the break, the staff surrounded Joy, making sure she was all right, asking if she needed anything. She waved them off with a smile. "I'm okay, really. I've dealt with worse. Let's just finish the show." When they came back from commercial, Joy addressed what had happened directly. "For those of you just joining us, we had a guest who became very upset during our conversation. It's unfortunate, but it happens. We always strive to have respectful, honest dialogues here. Sometimes people aren't ready for that kind of conversation, and that's their right. We respect their choice to leave." She didn't name Meghan again. She didn't need to. Everyone knew. Everyone had seen. The clip was probably already spreading across the internet, being shared and discussed and analyzed. "We're going to move on now," Joy continued, "because that's what we do. We have important topics to discuss, important guests coming up. That's what matters. Not drama, not walkouts, not threats, just real conversations about real issues." The audience applauded once more. They got it. They understood. Joy had maintained her dignity. She had stayed professional even when someone had tried to provoke her, had accused her, had threatened her. She had given every opportunity for the conversation to stay on track, and when it couldn't, she had handled it with grace. The rest of the show continued as planned, but everyone knew what the headline would be. Everyone knew what moment would be replayed, over and over. Not the calm professionalism of a veteran host, not the reasonable questions asked in good faith, but the explosive reaction of someone who couldn't handle scrutiny, someone who chose to attack rather than answer, someone who made threats rather than engage. In the studio that day, as the lights remained bright and the cameras kept rolling, one thing became crystal clear. When faced with legitimate questions, some people rise to the occasion. They engage thoughtfully. They explain their positions. They have real conversations even when uncomfortable. And others? Others reveal exactly who they are when the spotlight gets too bright, when the questions get too direct, when the image they've carefully constructed starts to crack under the weight of reality. The audience in that studio witnessed both. They saw a professional doing her job with integrity, and they saw someone who simply wasn't ready for that level of honesty. Someone who preferred control over conversation. Someone who chose to walk away rather than answer. 38 seconds. That's how long it took for everything to fall apart. 38 seconds from a simple follow-up question to a complete meltdown. 38 seconds to go from a standard interview to one of the most talked about moments in daytime television history. Joy Behar had started that morning expecting a normal interview. What she got instead was a masterclass in maintaining composure under attack, in staying professional when someone tries to provoke you, in knowing when to hold firm and when to simply let someone make their own choices, even if those choices are destructive. The cameras had captured it all, every word, every expression, every accusation, and every measured response. The truth wasn't hidden in editing or spin. It was right there, raw and unfiltered, for everyone to see. And what they saw was simple. A host trying to do her job. A guest who couldn't handle it. A conversation that spiraled because one person chose escalation over engagement. A moment that revealed character in the most public way possible. As the show ended and the studio began to clear out, Joy sat at the table for a moment alone. She thought about what had happened, about whether she could have done anything differently, about whether there was a way to have avoided the confrontation. But she knew the answer. When someone is determined to be offended, when someone sees any question as an attack, when someone values control over truth, there's no magic words that can change that. All you can do is stay true to your principles. Ask the questions that need asking. Maintain your integrity even when others lose theirs. She stood up, gathered her things, and walked off the stage. Behind her, the crew was already cleaning up, preparing for tomorrow's show. Because that's how it works. One moment ends, another begins. The show goes on, but this moment, these 38 seconds, and everything that followed would not be forgotten. They would be replayed, discussed, analyzed for a long time to come. Not because of who was involved, but because of what was revealed. About character, about integrity, about how people respond when they're uncomfortable. Joy had shown the world how to handle pressure with grace. Someone else had shown the opposite, and everyone watching had learned something valuable about both.